Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Thomas van der Zander, Cannabear, Gary Hughes, Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, Mr. Amish, Sensual Goat, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, J-Mels 24, Yu Unamento, Iron 26, Endless, Goldie McKinnon, Retro Bill, Level Playing Poem, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B. Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Rob W., Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, Chow Young Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
It's like, well, we have to use it, so. Or else you couldn't know anything. So we had a whole conversation about what is knowledge, and that's when I kind of messed up because I accidentally used a circular definition for it. I shouldn't have said that. I should have looked it up, but I was pretty close to what knowledge really is. Just I thought it was like that which is true. So, but he's got the whole knowledge, which is like a properly basic belief, or what was it? A justified belief. And he, that's. And he's like, you have to affirm. You have to have the, the consequence. And then not the consequence, but he said you have to assume that it's true before you can test it.
It sounds like you're breaking down the fundamental parts of an independent variable. That is to say, it is your presumed cause in your hypothesis. That is to say, it is an independent variable. It is actually what you're testing. It has to be capable of variation and manipulation by you, the researcher. And that tallies into the next one, which is it must be real. It must be the thing you're testing, it must be real, and it must be actually capable of you, a researcher, varying it and manipulating it.
That's correct. And I think when it brought up just having the conversation, I think you brought your name up because he just brings him dread, apparently.
Okay. I don't know why.
Good morning, Nathan, and if anybody's on the panel yet.
Morning.
Are we continuing the Bryce Mitchell today?
Yeah, I got Be With The Buzz just sent me the Bryce Mitchell thing. We're going to carry on from where we left off yesterday, I assume. That's where it's timestamped anyway.
Nice. All right.
I've got us at 1 minute. 1 minute. 1 hour 36. Is that correct? Did anybody make a note of where we got to yesterday? Sorry.
I don't know where you left off yesterday. Sorry. And don't tell us we're simping for Bryce Mitchell, bro. Remember yesterday when you just started the vid and you wanted to do a sound check? You asked if anybody have seen any of his. And I think I was the first one I told you. I've seen some of his interviews, and I said it right away, man. Dude doesn't know much about anything. It's mostly feast of nonsense, mostly conspiracy theories, and it's one of the reasons, he's allowed to be up there, and that's kind of what they want to show to the people. But at the same time, you know what I mean? Like, I can't sense when someone's genuine and when someone is, you know what I mean, speaking truth and whatever. That's just his understanding, and you know what I mean. That's how much he knows right now. So that was my only
Yeah, but
point.
my only thing with this, Mush, is we
Yes.
had an excuse. There was nothing else out there. 2015, 2016, 2017. After the Black Swan, and now after celestial navigation and the things that are out now, there's no excuse unless they never heard of it.
Well, Neil, look, you can't possibly know when he found out about this topic and how much he has researched this topic. It seems to me that it's recent. You know what I mean? All his interviews
And
are in the past, 6 months, maybe up to a year. So what makes you think that a professional fighter, somebody whose focus is on completely different things, is going to be able to find the FED and, you know what I mean, and
Eddie
go this
Bravo
deep
did.
into the research? What's that?
There's some. You said Eddie Bravo did,
Eddie
but just to
Bravo
add real
did.
quick.
Eddie Bravo's been like, it's many, many years, dude. Eddie Bravo's been around since probably as long as I have. Eddie Bravo knows everything. And he, you know what I mean?
Well, then
He dived into the
that's
topic.
sad
And he
because
found
hold on.
Nathan
Then that's
Oakley.
sad because holy shit.
He probably found, I'm
That's
sorry, bro.
sad
He
then
found Nathan
because
Oakley not right
Nathan.
away,
Oh my
right?
God!
Remember
I
Eddie
give
Bravo
up.
talking about NASA and all that shit? Remember?
And you got to realize one more thing real quick is how out there is this information that we have on our side
Yeah,
compared
dude.
to others.
Shadow band. Yeah, man.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Then that's very freaking sad because that means we're just speaking into a corner and nobody's hearing us.
Right, but at the same time, we can hold it against them because they haven't run across our material.
Yeah, that's the only
I'm
thing.
not.
That's the only thing.
Yeah, it seems to be there's a whole faction of believers that want to prove the biblical cosmology, because I think that's
Yes.
things more
Yeah.
pertinent to him, that he proves or that he believes in the biblical cosmology, not just one aspect of it. And there's things that
There's only one but there's only one cosmology. It's the one we live on.
Yeah, but the biblical cosmology makes more claims than the claims that we make here.
What's the problem? It's gone from very het up to silent.
No, it's just like Bryce to me. I've heard him. I heard, because I watch UFC, like most people watch soccer, but
No, I watch UFC too, bro.
yeah, exactly. So it just seems that he's more interested in biblical cosmology than it being measured flat, and that would lead you to one way of one aspect of the Feast of Nonsense and things that you can't prove, but you're making claims.
There seems to be a lot more UFC fighters who know about FE. It's not just Eddie Bravo and Bryce. I remember a couple of years ago there was a Brazilian dude. I don't remember his name, but he was a 7-footer. He was extremely tall, and unfortunately, he got brutally knocked out in a fight where just previous to that fight, he talked a lot about FE. He was even on ESPN, and I remember post-fight, Dana White, the president of the UFC, came out and made a kind of like F-up comment. Like he said something like, oh, he should worry more about his fighting game than flat earth. And there's another guy, also Brazilian, from a huge jiu-jitsu family, Kron Gracie is his name. He's also very outspoken about FE. He talks about it on whenever somebody asks him something.
Not just the fighters, Brazil itself.
Yeah, supposedly Brazil is the country that has the most flat earthers, yeah. Yep. But yeah, that's all I'm saying is like you can't blame people, dude, like for not having this deep knowledge that you're having after all these years of studying the subject and talking about it every day. And by the way, I remembered what I wanted to say the other day. I said the curse of knowledge. It was a logical fallacy, but it's pretty much the same. It's a cognitive bias, right? Where you expect other people to know everything that you know. It's just not like that,
No,
bro. It
but we
takes time
can't.
to get here.
That's not what we're doing. No, but that's not what we're doing. We're critiquing it
No, yeah, no,
as
like
we
it was just
critique
about
others.
Nathan yesterday, bro.
Sorry.
Neil, I'm not critiquing you or anyone, dude. I'm
How would you
just
define, sorry, how would you define knowledge?
I have to think about that
Something
one.
information of what you know from past to present. So like knowledge of water boiling at a certain temperature and so forth and so on, right? Or knowledge of something that you
The
know,
witch fast.
to put it simply,
I
right?
know, but I said that it's kind of a circular reasoning because you're using the word within the definition. Because the question was brought up if the science lead to knowledge, or does it just lead to something being more probable?
Isn't the science like the definition of science without the word natural in front of it? Like just the word science. I thought it was knowledge, right?
Yeah, it leads to knowledge.
Am I wrong about that?
Well, a lot of people seem to have the belief that knowledge means justifiable belief. I think you guys talked about it, but not in length. So it's just a true justified belief. So to the masses of the world, they don't see science as leading to knowledge, just leading to things that are less falsifiable.
Hmm. Factual information, maybe? I don't know, man. I would have to think about that one. What does it say? Like, what's the definition for knowledge? Like,
No, the
is
one
there
that
a point you're trying to make, or
yeah, because the one that I subscribe to, which is that which is true. Because you can have just, you can say information too. Just information is knowledge.
yeah, but that which is true can't be without anybody knowing it. You know what I mean?
So you put something and you prove something. Isn't there a knowledge gained?
Exactly, and something like the color green doesn't go through any type of belief system. It's just something. No one calls it something to, green to be green. So it's just like a knowledge. It's just true that is what the color is green, and you experience it that way.
I don't know if I wouldn't put colors into
Yeah,
that's
contrast.
part of
Somebody
knowledge.
created colors. The
Somebody
Almighty.
looked up the word knowledge, and the wiki page came up, and it says knowledge is awareness of facts, a familiarity
You know?
with individuals and situation, or a practical skill. In short.
Yeah, I guess awareness of factual information. I guess now after seeing this definition, that's the way I would phrase it.
And the scientific method should bring us to knowledge. This that definition of knowledge.
Which method, though?
Which scientific method?
Oh, you said scientific method? Well, that's about science. There's other forms of knowledge, right?
Yeah, one of
Right.
the
So you have
definitions.
they always should give you
One of the
empirical
definitions
knowledge.
has it in the fact or condition of knowing something with familiarity gained through experience or association, and acquaintance with or understanding of science, art, or technique. Knowledge.
There you go.
So it doesn't have anything to do with falsifiability. Something can be falsified, which is the consensus of this pseudoscience that it's in the world today.
But I don't really know. I think I get where you're driving at. You're suggesting that people will take certain aspects of the scientific method and say, well, if it's falsifiable, it's science. Right?
Yep, that's actually one that I grew up with. So
Yeah.
Yes, I remember way based on
You're breaking up, Neil.
proof.
You're breaking up, Neil. Anyway, I don't really understand why you're bandying the words of knowledge. It's like, does the semantics of this help us in any way? Is somebody challenging us based on the definition of what knowledge is?
we're talking about the scientific method, saying that it leads to knowledge, and then questions that pops up. It's like, no, it doesn't really lead to knowledge. It just leads to confidence, or I think that's actually a word someone used. We're trying to explain the scientific method that it will lead to a causal relationship or something that happens in the world, leads to knowledge. Knowledge is gained whether your experiment proves or that your null is proven.
Yeah. If your question's what caused that, then your answer at the end of the process is either, well, it wasn't that then, or it was that. We were right.
Yeah, and some say what we're arguing is that it would lead you to a justified belief, not knowledge.
No, it's empirical. At the end of that process, if you vary something and it causes the effect, that is the cause of the effect. That's it. It's not, oh, well, I've got a strong belief in it. No matter how many times you vary it, if you validated that it is the cause of the effect, every time you vary it, it will cause the effect. Likewise, if you vary something and it doesn't cause the effect, no amount of wiggling that assumed cause proven wrong will cause the effect. It can't. Both would violate the law of non-contradiction if anything other than what you verified held true. That is to say, if A causes B, it cannot cause B and not cause B at the same time. It violates the law of non-contradiction. Only one can be true. And once you validate the cause, that's it. Job's done. But you have empiricism behind you at that point. You've empirically validated the cause of an effect. That's what you've actually done. How people bandy words about whether or not that's knowledge was demonstrably true once proven. What is it in Latin? Quod erat demonstratum, I think it is. QED. It is proven. Once you've shown it and demonstrated it, that's it. You've shown the cause of the effect. It will forever be that cause, because if it wasn't, you'd be violating the law of non-contradiction. It can't both be the cause and not be the cause at the same time.
Heat is always going to cause water to boil, correct?
Yeah, and it can't simultaneously not be the cause. Again, violation of the law of non-contradiction if both hold true. They can't both hold true. That's where the empiricism's built into the methodology.
Yeah, I hear some argue that causation is a type of correlation. I think AI says something called.
No.
Yeah, I think even AI was arguing that one. AI interrupted.
People are scared of making
it's all
absolute
correlation.
statements for whatever reason. They want wiggle room. A causes B. How do you know? Watch this. Varies A. B happens. There you go. Proven. Well, what if I vary it again? Will B not happen? Well, try for yourself. Okay. Varies A. B happens. Oh, I already know. I varied A and B happened. Yeah. Every time you vary A, B will happen. We know we've varied it and B happens every time. Now, if tomorrow we vary A and B doesn't happen, we'd be in a law of non-contradiction violation, because it can't both cause B and not cause B. That's impossible. Once you know something causes something else, that's it. It's empirically validated if you've put it through the method. People seem to be scared of saying a statement of truth and fact with a degree of certitude. Well, that's not your problem. No, just nod along and go, all right, why so wimpy? Why so worried about stating something as true if you've proven it? You're worried that it might change? No, it won't. That's built into the method.
Nathan, you hit it on the head the other day when you said most of these people, they're pseudoscientists, and they can't vary anything. So they don't want the scientific method.
Yeah, if you've made up a cause, then it's a just so story as an explanation. Now, it might be something that's real and capable of being varied, but if you haven't actually varied it and validated that it does cause it, then it's just a just so story. It's a presumed cause yet to be validated at that point. But if they say, well, we're saying it is the cause, well, go and validate it and prove it. Rather than, oh, well, it might change. Well, yeah, it may very well change if you haven't proven that is the cause. You don't know. So stating that it is, it's just lying because you don't know that it is. Otherwise, you'd have validated that it was empirically. There's a method for doing that. It's called the scientific method. They just don't use it.
So the knowledge gained through the scientific method is experience. And a person with an experience is never at the mercy of another person with an argument. Experience is very valuable for that reason, but it shouldn't be like the way we go about seeking knowledge or gaining knowledge. You know, it'd be better, like, because you can get book knowledge on a subject, right? Like, you could study what it's like to be a great father. But if you had a great father, then you would know, you would have more knowledge of what a great father is than if you studied it in books. But even better than that, like, wisdom is not just knowing something, or it's in the doing of the something. So doing the right thing is better than both experience and book knowledge. But if you're gaining knowledge through the scientific method, that's experiential knowledge. It can't be overcome by an argument.
So heliocentrism is pseudoscience.
Yeah, I think just going back to my conversation with Ruhif, he did admit that nothing about the globe is self-evident. Anyways, that wasn't to regard to how it's self-evident that we're not moving or rotating. That it seems that we're evidently true that we're not moving. You know, it's evidently self-evident that the sun is moving.
Can that knowledge be gained through scientific method?
The question was, how would you disprove that to be the case?
He's admitted to using a logical fallacy, and we all know that logical fallacies are better than nothing. He's starting off with a logical fallacy. He admitted this to you. That's it. That's the end of the conversation.
Afternoon.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay.
Were you around at the end of yesterday's after show, Neil?
Nah, my phone freaking died.
Okay. So we covered Bryce Mitchell after the live show finished, and we got a fair way through covering the video, but obviously not all the way through. Now, it may be that after the bit that we've got to, it quickly dies and we don't have anything else to cover if he changes the subject drastically. So I've got another one in reserve that we'll do as well today on the live show. Also, once we finish with you, me, Adam, QE, we've got work to do, so it won't be a really long after show, just so you know. So if someone's itching to say something, just bear in mind that I'll be rounding out the after show relatively quickly, just for your information.
Nice. Was there any work done yesterday? Because my phone died.
Yes.
So that's good then, because I tried to come back in and you were gone. That means things are going quicker.
Yeah, things are rattling on at a pace. It depends on the chapter. Some chapters, like the science chapter, QE wasn't at all happy with, and he wanted to basically rewrite the whole thing, which obviously he didn't completely rewrite it, but he did rewrite massive chunks of it. So that chapter just took an eternity. When we were going through it, there was various other chapters that took a moderate amount of time to get through, whereas the one yesterday, we just rattled through it in about half an hour tops. And what I was recording for the publisher to make changes on was 7 minutes to tops. Of change this word to that, and there wasn't any major alterations, so we just rattled our way through it really quickly, with minimal for the guy publishing it to do.
Nice. I want to ask you a question, because I was thinking about it yesterday. Because I was on the other side of what Tenth was saying, because I believe that at the scripture that was read, I believe the stars sang at that point in creation. That was it. But I felt like Adam was giving Tenth a hard time. I don't understand why. I felt like, I don't know, maybe it's me. You didn't feel that way?
Me? No.
You don't think Adam was giving him a hard time?
No more than anybody else gets.
I don't know. Maybe when you listen back, you'll hear something different.
I was here, Neil.
Yeah, but sometimes when you hear it through again, your perception is there a little stronger.
No, not really.
Or it could be when you're away from it for a while and you come back, everything here's still the same, and you're just not used to that anymore. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
It's like in football, like when you're injured and you come back, everybody's still the same as when you left. They all got their game faces on. You got to get yours on, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. The same for everyone.
which, by the way, 10th Man sent me this short video. Oh, my God, Nathan, you got to hear what this guy says. It's unbelievable. I'm going to share it with you. I'm going to send it to you. It's maybe like 2 minutes. What the stuff coming out of this guy's mouth. It's one of QE's guys, too, Chuck Missler.
Yeah, and?
He's seeking totally taking angles, then claiming that if you plot them across the earth triangular fashion and you add them up, they come out to more than 180. And what does that mean? That's right, curvature of the earth.
Yes, ticket in Master B, and if 10th turns up today, we'll cover that with him.
Let me go get it. I sent it to Brian last night. I said, listen to this. You're going to have a laugh. Then he talks about the atomic clock, the quasi-experiment they did, that if you higher up you go in altitude, there's a difference because of gravity. Same nonsense. Hello.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So we've got a couple of videos to cover, and we're going to get straight into it because at the end of yesterday's after show, somebody presented a link because the show was actually going out while we were making our live show. So Bryce Mitchell was doing an interview, and we covered it at the end of show 2142. So this being 2143 that we're currently doing live now. But at the end of that after show, which if you're not a member will come out in about a week's time on my second channel. So if you've not subscribed to my second channel and you want the Uncut and after show for free, go and subscribe to my second channel. There's, again, a link in the info box below the video. So check it out, subscribe, and then you'll get that section, let's call it, of Bryce. I forgot his name already. Terrible. Bryce Mitchell. I even reached out to Eddie Bravo, because why not? I've got his contact information, and he's asked me a couple of questions over the years, and I've offered him the best possible overcomes I can muster for his questions about Flat Earth. So based on that, I thought I'll be cheeky and ask him if he's got the contact information for this guy, given that he's in front of relatively large audiences, and we would like to arm him with some better arguments, if nothing else, to leave him in a position where he's less likely to get ridiculed as a flat earther. So hopefully I'll get that contact information, and I can contact him and say, look, right, we want to sharpen up your sword and leave you in a position to be unridiculable, if that's even a word. So yeah, I'll see how that goes, and I'll keep you guys updated in terms of if I can get in touch with that guy through the only contact I know of that I can get in touch with him through, who may or may not have his information. I did hear someone else mentioning him about this, interview that he did about Flat Earth, and suggested that he had one of Eddie's moves in the ring, or octagon, or whatever it is that he's fighting in. Some spinning punch that he has, what's the word? I want to say stolen.
That Eddie's known for?
Say again?
You mean the spinning punch that Eddie's known for?
Yeah. So this guy Shane has also used that move. So it doesn't mean he's got his phone number, you know what I mean? But, it's just one of those things you think, oh, right, so there is at least some knowledge of each other, which might put me in a position where the one character that I know that he happens to use a fighting move of might have his number for all I know, which would be great, because it means I can collar him and say, right, listen to these arguments and use them, chop some globe heads off. Righto, so we've also got another one, because we don't know how much more Flat Earth there is to cover in this. So it might be that we start playing and actually, number one, we've covered it already, or he turns the subject to a different topic, and then we'll have to move on to a different video that I've got also lined up. With that said, shall we crack on to it? I have to re-level the stuff because I've listened to other stuff.
On it, bro.
Since.
They know. They've been revealed. They worship Satan. That's it. If they're skull and bones, they know. Now, not all of them. you know.
Didn't we
But
cover this?
a lot of these people really know. And you earlier,
Didn't we already
Yeah,
cover this? Maybe it's.
I think we heard this yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've already got to this. I'll have to spin forward till I find a bit that we haven't actually already covered.
Did you watch a debate between President Trump and Biden?
I watched parts of it. Yes, sir.
Okay. How impressed were you by President Biden?
Honestly,
Which I thought is...
I swear to God.
you guys think I'm interesting about that Joe Biden. If you pull up, he's not, there's not always a crazy explanation, but more likely not. Guess what? And those football players were 12 years old. Well, guess what? She was banging a 12-year-old dude, and she got sent to prison. That's no shit. Biden came out and said, "Hey, y'all need an extra player." And we said, "Yeah, we need to play 5-on-5."
I actually think it is as we feared. We might have actually covered all of it in yesterday's after show. Okay, so hopefully, if I start the ball rolling, one of you guys who was there yesterday will be able to chip in and say, "Yeah, that was the general vibe and consensus opinion of the people who were listening it to yesterday." Like I say, become a member and you can watch it right away. But the general consensus view is he's number one, his heart's in the right place, but he's been exposed to a lot of feast and nonsense, and that's what he's researched and that's what he's regurgitating. So in many ways, there's a bitter taste in our mouths when we hear him talking about this subject, as much as many of the panel wanted to praise him because he's putting it out there. And isn't that great? Well, not necessarily, if it's being put out in the same way as we're currently fending off with ice walls and domes. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of how we would view the information. Now, while we're correcting, or me specifically was correcting some of the information that was coming out of this guy's mouth yesterday, I was being deemed overly critical and heartless, or whatever you want to call it, for just taking what he said and saying, well, no, this is what we would do with that position, etc., etc. Very blunt, very matter of fact. Anybody got anything to carry on with to summarise what we were doing yesterday? There's also a very religious aspect to his motivations. So he drew from scripture frequently and was juxtaposing that with, demons and devils and the worship thereof from the elites. Not necessarily providing any evidence for that, but that's what he did. Again, I'm trying to hint at people to join in and carry on the critique that we had for yesterday, because there's nothing else to listen to.
Well, I put that in Master B if you want to check it out. The title is called The Nature of Reality, Chuck Missler.
Did you hear what I was just saying, Neil?
No, I just came back.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, thanks. Anybody from the Discord panel that was there yesterday that want to add their 2 pennyworth? If not, I'm just going to spin back about 2 or 3 minutes, play a little example of what they were going through, and then we'll move on to the other video that I've got in the wing.
I think it's a great idea.
Anybody?
Yeah, I think you covered it there, Nathan. It's one deck, sorry. Yeah, there was a bit of a mixed bag of views on it. Yeah, he is talking sort of 8-9 years ago, which we're all aware of them points. And for us, I think at this level, we were saying, where else is he going to go to get his information, for one? If he's not here with us, he's not going to be getting the correct information. So we can't really pin him down too much on that. And who else is out there? Who's he listening to, for one? You've got your Eric DeBays, you've got your, who's not too bad, but you've got your not so flat earth Dave, Whitsitt. And the guy's new, so he was coming out with some points which isn't automatically solid evidence or proof that we do live on a flat earth and it can be measured. That's the level we're at. And that's what we'll go straight for going on the front foot in 2024. So it's a hard one, really. We the guy's out there putting his views forward, but we also can see what he's saying is he's got to tread carefully, because if he gets into the wrong hands of people, then it could be a little bit not dangerous, but you're getting into the feast of nonsense, like you say. So it's a difficult one, really. He's got two. It's a double-edged sword.
Then that means that we're shouting in the corner and nobody's hearing us.
I don't know. I had 26,000 subscribers yesterday. Delighted, absolutely elated.
It wasn't 26,001. Maybe this guy would have heard.
Okay, negative Nelly. Also, 8 million views on this channel. And the second channel's got a couple of million views, so 10 million views total. I wouldn't say that's not reaching anybody, Neil.
Yeah, then they're doing it by design, Nathan. I firmly believe this is done by design. They're picking the right people to put out there so they can make a mockery of it.
That was my first point that I brought up yesterday when Bryce Mitchell was brought to the conversation.
Can you reiterate
Because
that?
it's a feast
Go
of
ahead,
nonsense,
Mush.
because
Reiterate
it's
your point.
conspiracy. Sorry, bro. What?
No, I'm saying reiterate your point rather than saying that's what I said yesterday. Just go through it again.
There's a reason why they brought Bryce Mitchell, to reach the wide audience, because again, it's all he talks about is feast of nonsense and conspiracies and no factual information whatsoever. And after the show, when you guys left, I brought one point up that like, how does somebody who's a flat earther never mentions the water being level? That's the first thing you gotta talk about if you're gonna talk flat earth. Before any conspiracy, before any NASA tongues or devils or demons, or right? Water is level. That's a fundamental piece of information that everybody knows. They just need to be reminded, and that's the first thing that needs to be brought up. And nobody does it. We don't talk about level anymore. Nobody does. Okay. Water must be contained, and the surface of those bodies of water is always flat.
I agree. I agree. Sorry, Nathan.
I just want to do a quick call to action. So, for those who want to, and I would strongly encourage you do, please let the videographer that interviewed Bryce Mitchell know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. I'm going to post a link in the live stream chat right now, so that if you are watching, there's only 65 people watching as we've only just started. But regardless, if you're watching after the fact, that is to say you're tuning into the live stream when it's not actually live, then it'll still be there in the live stream chat for you to click on. Obviously, you can come back to the video afterwards. That would be wonderful. But yeah, please it's a PBD podcast. That's the name of the actual YouTube channel that's done this interview. So yeah, let that videographer know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, and leave them a nice comment. Obviously, they're a massive channel by comparison to us, but help them in the YouTube algorithmic love that we would hope to receive if they were to make a response to us. You'd hope they'd put a link to my video, affording us some YouTube algorithmic love that we definitely don't receive by way of YouTube themselves. So this is our version of that. If we share the love, we'd hope it was shared in return. So yeah, please let him know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me the link, as you can see on screen now, is whizzing its way by in the live stream chat as we edge up to 70 people watching. So yeah, there's not a tiny amount of people. There's several that would hopefully click on that link and actually do that. One deck, I've dragged that out so that people actually do click on the link and go and do it, and then we're still doing the call to action when they get back here, rather than have them miss a story when they tune back in after leaving the stream, coming back again, etc., etc. I do want to actually thank the people who do this. So I do periodically go and have a look at these videos that we've covered already and see a comment from one of my subscribers. And it does fill me full of joy. I'm not going to lie. It really does make me proud when people do follow this call to action and go out and say, hey, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, we covered it's a response to blah, 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 whatever it is you've paraphrased into that little comment. And people love comments. You know, they know that comments mean engagement. That means YouTube's more likely to promote their video. So me sending people who are definitely going to comment their way can only help them. Obviously, it doesn't, if you leave a sweary comment, that immediately gets removed by YouTube themselves. But obviously, I wouldn't encourage you to do that. I think I've dragged that out long enough, One Decker. Can you still hang on to the thought that you had before I did that long call to action?
I think so, but I can talk about anything because it's strange because I think the guy yesterday was talking, I think we sort of said the best sort of proof he brought up was, a hovering helicopter and the globe obviously not spinning underneath it, which relates to Coriolis. But a lot of his stuff was going into the trying to disprove the globe. And it just shows you how far we've come forward, and you, Nathan, and the crew, because, just to rewind a little bit, even over the last few years, probably on your show with the housekeeping questions, we're asking for evidence evidence of distance to the sun, evidence of Earth curvature, physical Earth curvature. Evidence can you acquire elevation angle from a curved surface? But we don't get any evidence of that. And we've done that for a lot of years. And now we've even topped that. We're not asking for evidence of the globe suppositions anymore. We're actually going forward on the front foot and explaining how the Earth is observed and measured and utilized flat. And that's the level we're at. And this is where we need to bring everybody up to speed. You can stop wasting a lot of time talking about all that. And I think we were saying that yesterday. But on the other hand, for new people coming in, or the average Joe, that might be a bit too much to absorb in the first instance. So the guy might, mention in the Bible and how the Bible explains flat Earth, and it might just twig somebody's brain to think, oh, he might have a point there, even though we think he's sounding a little bit ludicrous and whatever. So it's got good points in some ways, but it just shows how far you and the team have come and all us on board.
Sure, but we're
Sorry
in a
about that.
position to offer this guy a few silver bullets, aren't we? Which is a nice position to be in.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
It's
whoever that
just
was.
getting in touch.
There was someone else
Sorry,
in
go
the
on.
Discord, I think, was trying to get a word in. Whoever that was, go ahead, and then I'm going to give the audience a taste of a bit of this interview. Is someone else trying to get a word in?
Hi, this is Paulino B. Michael, the Flat Out Truth. I think he's willing to learn, like I was saying yesterday. We just got to get him the content. I mean, he has access to a platform only because he's a good fighter, and sometimes that's a different road to the Flat Out Truth and the measurement of Earth.
Just for the audience's benefit, right? While we were doing the show yesterday, it was the Flat Out Truth that sort of interrupted proceedings and said, hey, can you guys cover this? I was literally driving my truck and had to pull over. He's not taking any credit. He's not taking a bow. Okay.
Yes. Yes, it was me. I didn't want to interrupt you. I know you got a show to run. I don't know. I think this just shows we have to get the information out into the right hands, the people that have access to bigger platforms. And I don't know the way in. It could be a different way to get access to these people.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, I've made some efforts to try and get hold of this guy. Hopefully I'll be successful. If you do want to watch us critique it for several hours, then either become a member or subscribe to my second channel and wait 10 days, a week or so, whatever it is, when yesterday's video comes out as an Uncut and After show, and you can hear us critiquing this for a long period of time. In the meantime, for the audience live now, this is going to be just a taster of what the kind of style of interview was, what was covered.
You see what I'm saying? There's always a barrier of the atmosphere. So literally oxygen, it ain't invisible. There's some degree of tint that oxygen provides. So you can't just see an infinite amount of distance with all this oxygen in front of you. You see what I'm saying? The debris.
Okay, so hopefully if people are getting a bit of a flavour, we'll play a few other excerpts.
And the oxygen, all the gases, they're not invisible. So you can only see so far because all of this atmosphere.
Okay, so now you're saying you can't go to the end of the earth if it's flat. Why can't you go to it?
That's not what he said at all. Anyway, you can see how this to and fro goes. He's kind of, Bryce, that is, regurgitating some of the Feast of Nonsense stuff and linking atmosphere, sphere-shaped air, oxymoronic sphere-shaped air, with seeing too far. And the guy in response is like, so you're saying you can't go to the edge? I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but you get the idea. Like I say, we did spend many hours going through this yesterday, but I'm pretty sure we have actually already covered it, so I don't want to do that again. And I have got a reserve video that I also want to cover that I came across as a result of Nick. So shout out to, if someone can dig out this guy's channel, I'm sure he'd be very grateful for the subscribers. He's definitely a flatty. And you may remember this guy from a couple of years back where he got trapped here during COVID. So he's from Phuket, in case that isn't obvious by the channel name. Phuket Word is the name of the channel. And yeah, he got trapped here and had to go through all sorts of argy-bargy to get home. So we did a fundraiser to get him home to his family. who would have literally suffered poverty without him there as the breadwinner, stuck in England at the worst possible time. So anyway, Nick contacted me, just to give you a bit of backstory to who Nick is. I've known him considerably longer than that, by the way. That isn't just his only bit of backstory, but you may remember that if you're reasonably long-toothed subscriber of this channel. Anywho, he dropped me a line and said, hey, Thomas Sheridan did a video about moon stuff. You might be interested. And I got back in touch and said, well, were you aware that I actually interviewed him about 10 years ago about psychopathy? And he said, oh, yeah, I remember you had a jolly good chat with him about psychos. Anyway, this changed my general perception of where he stood in this subject. And it was quite telling. So I thought, oh, okay, well, I do actually like Thomas Sheridan. I'm subscribed and I watch him, not all the time. I don't watch all of his videos, but I do watch him. And he is on our radar now for this particular reason. So I left quite a few comments for him. And basically said, look, it's reached the point about 2/3 through the video when I'm leaving this comment. This is too much for me to just let slide. So again, I'm going to do a call to action so that you can let Thomas Sheridan know. That's the name of the channel. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So as before, I know I'm doing too many calls to action, but I didn't know we would run out so quickly on that video. So that's just the way it goes. But Bryce, I'm sorry. I thought we'd cover more. Anywho, this video that we are going to cover today on today's live stream and actually do some proper response to is whizzing its way by on the chat. And like I say, this guy's friendly. He did an interview with me. He was very cordial. He's a good guy. He's very knowledgeable. But this is definitely not his expert subject. It's ours. Or in my comment to him. This isn't your expert field, it's mine. And this is too much nonsense for me to bear. So I must respond to this. So yeah, let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me more than ever, because I do like, as I say, Thomas Sheridan. Not that should make a difference. Be as polite as possible. Help him in the YouTube algorithm, as we would hope to get help by him if he was to do a response. Hopefully he'd stick a link to our video. And I'd get some of his audience leaving comments for me. So there we go. Hopefully with a few more repetitions of that particular call to action, some of the live stream audience will actually toddle along to Thomas and say, hey, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Great channel. Love your stuff. Or whatever it is you want to say. Go ahead.
Hey, Nathan. Do you know, like, we've been doing that for a while, and, Nathan Oakley sent me and everything like that on these things. So what has become of doing that? Has anything aspired from that, from any of the reactions we've done in a positive way? Obviously the purpose of it is to get your name out there, and people might have a response to what we've said. But what's aspired from that, if anything?
People seeing my name in comments, that's it. It's self-evident. It's self-explanatory in terms of what it achieves also. Now, obviously, in my call to action, I'm saying my hope is that were someone to make a response video, they'd put a link to our video. That's happened once from one university professor who did it, but on his tiny little second channel. So he did the response on a video he didn't originally make the video we were responding to. So his response was on a channel with 5,000 subscribers when his original channel had, I don't know, 100,000 or something like that. It's happened once, literally once.
You did get some. I think you said you got some extra sort of members or subscribers, didn't you, from the Eric Debay video that he mentioned you in?
Oh, absolutely.
That was good news.
Yeah, I gained about 60 subs from that. Not that this is probably a best of discussion for a live stream, but yes, Eric Debay made a video about the futility of flat Earth debates, and then was very scathing of the people who have hijacked the algorithmic search term, like Fight the Flat Earth, Simon Dan. You don't need to reel off the list, but you know what I'm talking about. Well, he was scathing in terms of the state of debate in that regard. And in my humble ambition, when I started this show, I was attempting to be the antidote to that, which is to say that while we currently hear barked at us that I should personally leave this platform, even though I'm the host of a debating show, to debate on a quote-unquote neutral platform. Well, what is a neutral platform? Well, it's a completely biased platform that they can take us to task on and shut us down whenever they see fit and not answer any questions, call us names, and we have to sit there for a couple of hours and tolerate it, as opposed to being given the air to actually express an argument concisely enough for an audience to understand it from our side. That's why I run this show. so that we at least have some representation in the debate for our side. Now, people can say, well, you're a flat earther, you're biased. Yeah, I am. Is it enough? No. Am I a big enough antidote to the flat earth algorithm's search term being directed squarely away from us? Me as the tiny little one channel that actually does this versus the dozens that have realised they can get money out of putting flat earth in their title and then scathing arseholes, let's just call them, being nasty to flat earthers on their channel. Yeah, loads of people get paid out. I get criticised for not joining their quote-unquote neutral platforms. But I see myself as the antidote to that. Eric DeBay's video was squarely directed at them and mentioned both myself and Witsit as having won debates and praised us for it. So I left him a comment and then encouraged my audience to go and like the comment, falsely manipulate the algorithm on his channel in such a way that my comment would be at the top of the list when someone comes along. So when they hear my name mentioned, they can at least have a route to finding me via his comment section. Because it wasn't a video about me, I wouldn't expect him to put links to me. In the same way, I wouldn't expect him to be putting links to Fight the Flat Earth when he's being scathing about him hijacking the search term. But my point is that in that respect, it's like, well, this is directly about what we do here. And if someone does want to actually witness what a debate looks like when somebody's on the flat earth side running the show rather than the absolute norm, which is that the opponents run the show, then they can find their way to me relatively easily. So 60 subscribers is a fair old chunk to get in a couple of days. Given that I might grow by 1 or 2 subscribers a day, it was a big chunk of people that just suddenly arrived and was like, oh, I can't believe I've never found you. Just like, yeah, shock and horror. Yeah, exactly. That's why I've gone to such efforts to get something like a comment liked up, because that is literally the only route to people finding me. So while it hasn't been massively successful, to answer your question about debate and indeed algorithmic manipulation by myself, you've got to do everything you possibly can if you want to try and grow a channel like this. And that is precisely what I do. I dedicate my every waking hour to it. Hope that answers your question, one day.
Yeah,
anyway,
thanks, Nathan, yeah.
Right, we're going to cover a bit of Thomas Sheridan, so we're going to play it through. You can have a listen, check it out.
A 1 3/4 inch or 2 inch refracting telescope, and it was set up on the balcony in Ballymun, and I pointed it towards the moon, and the shock and awe of seeing the lunar craters in stark clarity. It was almost like I can remember feeling the thump in my heart that, like, oh my God, it's real. The moon really does look like, what they said it does, and it's not just this blue haze, but I could see all the craters clearly, the big craters and everything else, and it was just, what the hell, and it was like it was an awe-inspiring, an awesome experience. Now, and then I remember having books like the Ladybird Book of the Night Sky, which has beautiful illustrations, and reading the book as a child, and to this day felt very mystical. The beautiful illustrations of the night sky over the English countryside.
Sound familiar? Yeah, get them while they're young. The majesty of the heavens presented in a beautiful book is something that can capture the minds of the innocent pretty easily. And rightly so.
I think there's one picture of like Orion and a badger in the foreground painted in like semi-moonlight. It's just beautiful illustrations. And there was a Patrick Moore book on the constellations that went back to the 1950s. That was basically just blue circles that showed you where each constellation would be at certain times of the year. And the whole thing was just wondrous to me, and it was deeply spiritual. So, in the old days, scientists would have came to cosmology in that manner, And
they're not scientists. Cosmology, how's that science? Pseudoscience, if you're going to claim it as science. If you're going to claim that you put these methodologies, these observations through the method of science, and not actually put it through the method, it instantaneously gets redefined, accurately so, as pseudoscience, which is precisely what all these fields are. Astronomy, cosmology, pseudosciences.
Then when you find out things like eclipses, how the moon is exactly the right size and exactly the right distance from the Earth in order to create a perfect solar eclipse, it cannot be by accident. That cannot be happenstance. That moon is in the position where it is.
Okay, that's where we have a problem. So when you say it's in the position where it is, the assumed position that the moon is described to be in is heliocentric. So that's Keplerian descriptions taken from the origin measurements of angle relationships to the stars measured off a flat plane. So we've got a derivation of flat plane measurements of angles to the stars to infer orbital motion from Kepler to give us the relative positions of the luminaries with respect to us as a ball in a position to potentially occult other luminaries in the sky, in spite of the fact that we're on a plane and the lights are above us. We're not a ball occulting anything, and that idea is derived from the minimum elevation angle measurement off a flat plane to Polaris to give us the outside edge of a ball, aka radial value, for Kepler to put that radial value into motion around the sun. So we can have occultations and eclipses described in heliocentric motion. We'll get to the scale and distance later when he mentions it. I have watched this in advance.
Because it's supposed to be there. Now, you could say it was just accidental and all kinds of things, but even the most hardened skeptic scientist would still have to conclude that the moon is very strange.
So how would that make them a scientist? So somebody coming to the conclusion that the moon's odd. Well, that's got nothing to do with science at all. I mean, if it's doing something specific and you study it, you can put it through the methodology of cause and effect. That's the scientific method, and establish what causes that to happen, the thing that you're observing to be weird. But just saying it's weird, okay, that's fascinating. Yeah, okay, let's agree. So what was that? Scientists told you it's weird too. So we all agree it's weird. Well, this doesn't need them ascribing the term of scientist, does it? If they're establishing cause and effect through systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis after observing phenomena, then we'll call them scientists.
And even the way the moon rises above.
Yeah, one Dick.
I'm just saying he's only, I mean, other than a few incorrect things he's saying, he's just pointing out the wonderment of the skies, really, which we are all in agreement with. You know, it's a wonderment. The moon's wonderful, the sun is, the lights in the sky, they're wonderful to look at, and we wonder what they are, because we don't bloody know. So we agree with him on that. But as for doing any scientific investigation with them, especially using the scientific method, that cannot be done, I'm afraid.
No, but what we do have and what he's appealing to is derived from flat Earth measurements of angles to the luminaries themselves. Once we've got those flat Earth angle measurements of the luminaries, we can use specific angle measurements to derive things like radial values, and then you can infer Earth's sphericity and its sun-centric position with respect to the occultation of the moon, when that comes between us, the sun, and vice versa for orbital and solar eclipses. All of that is utterly dependent on an extrapolation of a flat Earth measurement of Polaris. That's where it all begins.
So you can do quite a lot with an angle, can't you?
Yeah, you can infer an entire heliocentric religion with an angle. Yeah, that's right. Hey, Adam.
Afternoon, everyone.
You seen you recovering?
I've been in and out, and I'd heard that Nick has recommended it, who it is, and then I've just kind of missed the start, so I've just kind of jumped in now. So
yeah, but do you know who he is?
He's only from the description at the beginning, what you gave, he's the psycho dude.
Well, not anymore. He hasn't done that for about 8 years. Oh, not even. No, probably longer. When I interviewed him, I was the last person to interview him on the subject. So he came out with a video. Let's just rewind a little bit. Before I came to Flat Earth, I was fascinated with psychopathy. So I was studying it like mad all day, every day. That's all I could do. And Thomas Sheridan was one of the people putting information about psychopathy, narcissism, that sort of thing, about 10 years ago. And as I say, he made a video saying, look, I've covered as much as I can on this subject, and I'm going to be moving on. And it was right at the time where I just started making videos and just started to build up a tiny reputation on YouTube, maybe 1,000 subscribers, say. Enough for me to go, hey, right, this is going to sound weird, but I've built up a channel that's about Flat Earth, and I actually don't want to talk to you about that. I know you're anti-Flat Earth. But I really value your information about psychopathy and feel it will be valuable to my audience. I appreciate that you've just said I'm not going to cover this subject anymore. Would you be willing to do an interview? And he went, yeah, right. and then gave me a solid hour, maybe a bit longer, just giving what I could only consider to be a fantastic rendition of what he'd condensed down over the years on my show. I was really proud of it. But a bit like with Bart Sibrel, I avoided the subject of flat Earth. I don't think it even came up. I think I mentioned it that I wasn't going to mention it, and that was about it. Hello, Brian. But that was my interaction. Like I say, and for 10 years, probably that amount roughly of time, he hasn't covered the subject of psychopathy at all. So there might be people who are subscribed to him now that go, really? That's what you knew of him? Because they're probably, more interested in his political rants and various other things that he talks about. Because that's what he covers now. But there we go. That's my backstory of how I'm, I won't say involved with Thomas Sheridan or not. Having interviewed him once, I've spent as much time interviewing him as I have in his company in general. You know what I mean? That was it. That was my sum total interaction with him. It just happened to be broadcast. Anyway, yes, just to get us back on this track, because we've come off the rails a little bit. Wondek's point earlier was to say, oh, well, so far he's just admiring the wonderment of the stars. Well, yeah, there's more.
The horizon and it's gigantic. That can't be explained. They can't explain that. And when I was growing up, they said it was caused by the Earth's atmosphere being like a lens, and I'm magnifying it. That's nonsense, because the sun doesn't get bigger, and the other bodies don't get bigger when they rise. And the moon has a strange kind of almost translucence about it when it's rising, and it's huge, as if it's almost like a hologram or something. And they basically have to go to quantum science, quantum physics, and use like the observer effect to try and explain that. But they never have.
Anybody want to pick up that?
It sounds lost. But he knows it doesn't seem right. What he's being told is the feeling I'm getting. But
yeah, but this appeal to the observer effect. What he's actually describing is a cause and effect relationship that has been scientifically validated. That is to say that knowledge of which path will cause wave function collapse. That's the actual statement in that particular science that has massively influenced our technological advancement for humanity. But talking about whether or not if a light has passed through one slit or another slit based on if you have the information, you have the knowledge of which slit it goes through, and that causing the effect of wave function collapse. That is to say, you no longer get a diffraction pattern, you just get two bars because it's going through two slits. Well, that, useful though it is, has absolutely zero association with what the moon does. Would you feel the need to add anything to that, Adam?
I didn't hear him say that. I heard him say the observer effect of quantum physics. Can we get a J just to...
You want to hear it again? Yeah, no worries.
Just to see what he was invoking. I didn't hear double
the other
slit
bodies don't
involved.
get bigger when they rise. And the moon has a strange kind of almost translucence about it when it's rising, and it's huge, as if it's almost like a hologram or something. And they basically have to go to quantum science, quantum physics, and use like the observer effect to try and explain that. But they never adequately will, using their own sort of materialistic hard science.
So that's nonsense now. To me, that's invoking. So the observer effect is if you look at something, you invariably change it. Now that may as well be true. I don't see how that's relevant to how when we look at the moon. I'm not sure what he's saying here. He's just throwing out buzzwords that's all I heard.
So the moon is very peculiar. That's that in the past when people did science, especially things like astronomy and then later quantum theory.
Right. Fair enough.
What do you mean, fair enough? Astronomy, science. That fair enough, is it?
No, that's what I mean. Fair enough. Go tell him off is what I was saying there. You can't have that.
Well, you be my guest.
Okay. So one of the housekeeping questions is there any viable scientific hypothesis from the fields of astronomy, astrology, which is what he's invoking here. He's trying to imply that these disciplines are scientific in nature, which they are not. They offer, whilst they may use some form of empiricism, They offer no cause and effect relationship. At best, we have, as we all know, just so stories. So that's the point of contention there, that he thinks astronomy, astrology is science.
Morning, guys. Hello, Nathan.
Hey, Chocolate. Hey, Brian. Okay, well, just as we're here, we might.
You going to say something, Chocolate?
Yeah. Did you want to say something, Chocolate?
No, just good morning.
Was you, Brian?
I might say something, Nathan. Yeah. It seems to me, I don't know much. I know the guy's name for some reason, but not because he's Irish. I just know his name for some reason.
I've got to drop a racist remark in there. Surely you know him, right?
Yeah, because I'm on the same island as him. Yeah.
You know, he's probably just down the road from you.
Yeah, we all know, everyone here knows everyone. Yeah. But well, you know what? Stupidly enough, it has been proven to happen. So, stupidly enough, it has been proven to happen. Do you know blah blah? And someone actually happens to know the person when they're in another country, being asked by a complete foreigner. Anyway, besides that, let's get back on track, please. It seems to me like the man seems bewildered. It just seems he's basically saying what I'm hearing. I'm only hearing a few bits that just joined. That when concerning the moon, anyway. He's basically saying they don't have a clue what it is. And it's not what they're telling us. That's what it sounds like to me. They might be getting things wrong concerning science. Yeah,
No. Yeah, I'm so glad you've said that.
Well, I've only just joined, so I don't know.
No, you've got the right impression. You've got the impression that I want the audience to have at this stage, so that when what comes up shortly comes out of his mouth, you'll go, oh, right, you're in cognitive dissonance. Hold on to that thought, Brian. Anybody else got any remarks at this point? Or shall I just go through what science actually is at this point? Or is that inappropriate?
I'll save it for later, I think, if that's what's coming.
Just remind me, in case we don't do it at all.
The strangeness of the universe created a rationalization that moved them towards the occult. Hence why Newton was an occultist. And so are many others. Tycho Brahe was probably one too. And the strangeness of the universe would have them going into the occult and alchemy to seek answers. Now that's one factor. So that's why factors and there's a lot of things in science.
So I've no real problem with that. As a summary, I think that's historically correct.
Oh yeah, I've got no objection so far.
No, and I think that's quite clever. So he's recognised you can only see stuff. So where do you go for more answers? You go into a completely different field to try and give you an idea. And yeah, I think that would be correct.
Just for context, I just realised that I used the word occult earlier. It does, strictly speaking, mean the same thing, but when I used it earlier, I mean in a fantasy world of heliocentric moving spheres, one body moving in front of the other is an occultation. One is occulting the other. That is to say, hiding the other. In his context, he kind of means the same thing when he says occult, because he's saying the hidden, but he's just not referring to bodies when he talks about Newton being a part of the hidden. I'm just going to change the word slightly so it gives it the context he means, because we've both used the same word now.
I think he's implying dark magic there.
Yes, he is.
Occult knowledge,
exactly.
Which isn't necessarily evil, but it means hidden knowledge. Yeah.
Perfect.
Science like calculations and so on, and when you wrote them down by hand, it's a very similar to a magical process. For instance, like when the Apollo missions were on the lunar excursion part of the journey, the telemetry was done literally live with a sheet of paper and a slide rule. Literally calculations, paper thrown in the bin, calculations, trade it back to them, paper thrown in the bin. It's literally done like that.
Oh, really? Oh, someone's piping up. Who wants that?
Not the same telemetry that was lost or erased or recorded over. It can't be that telemetry, right?
Well, he seems to now be suddenly an expert on what happened during the Apollo missions.
That's not. No. That's not where I'm trying to focus. I'm smiling because I know what that telemetry. That telemetry data requires. Hold on, just let me get the sentence out. I just want to get the one sentence out rather than fighting each other over the mic. I know what is involved in that telemetry data he's saying is calculated with a slide rule. right? I know its origins, right?
Yeah, that's my point. He's trying to now tell us about what happened during the Apollo missions. Even if they did happen, right, in the way they say they did, he had nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? Even if we were on a globe and them things actually happened, he had nothing to do with it. How can he tell anyone about it?
You mentioned the term cognitive pain earlier. That I'm just hearing some there. For any reasonable person to think that they did the telemetry data to the moon and back live with a piece of paper is just mugging yourself off. Yeah, you in no way demonstrates you've not explored it. The complexity, the time delays. They did it live, did they, with a sheet of paper? Okay, you tell yourself that, and then you can carry on, can't you?
Okay, but
that's the first bit of cognitive pain I've heard that you would actually verbalise that.
Okay, we've all three of you have reiterated the same point, and I wanted to make a different point. If we were to calculate a trip to the moon, us now, knowing what we know about heliocentrism.
Flat plane required. I know that.
Right, there we go. I'm going to let Brian pick up the reins now. You know where I'm going now, finally.
But I knew where you were going in the first place, but I'm critiquing him on what he thinks.
Yeah, but I also want the information
the
about...
telemetry would require a flat plane, I understand that. But I'm critiquing him on what he thinks. I understand your point being is that what he doesn't realise is that what would have been wrote down on the paper would have been a load of flat plane calculations, not globe calculations. I understand that. I understand he doesn't know that. I was just critiquing him on his mind powers. Do you know what I mean? That's what
I also want...
tell me how they do it today.
Yeah, I'm just considering multiple levels of audience participation. That's it. It's just when you're a bit downbeat about the, you new to flat Earth bit. It's about, okay, for some, that's the most potentially eye-opening revelation that I've ever heard on a YouTube video. But
I suppose, for me, it's just like, I know, because everything has to be done from a flat plane. That's the difference. For me, it's just like, I know, whatever. For me, it's like an afterthought. It's like of course. Do you know what I mean? It's like, for me, of course. You know what I mean? It's like,
so how would they do it? Explain it to me now. How would they do it? Knowing what we know now, how does that happen from flat Earth?
The telemetry...
In this case, it doesn't. It's all made up and pretend, isn't it? But the reality is, if you were going to take these orbital data that you've constructed for the moon, originally it's taken from a flat Earth elevation angle, isn't it? And then constructed into an orbit of the moon, and then you've got some chick with a pencil and a pad pretending to calculate it live as they travel from this place to this as one orbits, their orbit being based on the... You're not going to have flat Earth elevation angles to the lunar lander because you wouldn't be able to see it, but it'll all be based on flat Earth elevation angles and consequential generated orbits to the moon.
Exactly. So it's the same explanation we give when we explain to people how you've gone from flat Earth elevation angle measurements to Polaris at its minimum inferred angle to give you an outside edge of a sphere, aka radial value, for Kepler to put it into motion around the Sun, for Huygens to scale the distances with Venus, for then Thomas to suggest that within that flat Earth originating premise, you can use a slide rule to calculate someone off the flat plane you originally measured to travel into the conceptual maths of Kepler to travel in an orbital motion and arrive at the moon. That's what he's actually saying when you know where the origins of the inference of an orbital motion come from in terms of what's actually been measured. That'd be angles to Polaris.
Just going off, you could go on and on about this, couldn't you? You know, the vacuum of space and gas pressure not entering that region. But what makes me laugh about this sometimes, I always just remind me of some reason, when you do get into the Feast of Nonsense about them going to the moon and the Apollo missions, if you read about the instruments that they took, they actually tell you that they used a sextant up there, which I found very bizarre because they would have had to be, referencing a horizontal fucking flat Earth to get to where they was going in the first place.
No, you don't do it like that. I found that video once we played it on the show.
Yeah,
What you do, okay, is you look out of your space module and you find a horizon of the ball Earth, and you just basically line your horizon mirror up with the bit of the Earth that you think it's similar to the GP. Then you can take your star reading. That was a NASA instruction video.
Yeah, in reality,
That's where we got plumb bobs in space from.
Yeah, we all got mugged off because what is actually happening when they describe that can be detailed in terms of how we've mapped it on the extended, keep wanting to call it equatorial, it's not. The extended celestial plane is where you would technically do that, but you're not measuring along a baseline that meets the curved surface of the original reference with Polaris at its centre, aka globe Earth from space. It's utterly absurd, but that's literally what they've told you, and people believe it. Like you said, One Deck, people believe you can go into an area of volume that gas is not expanding into, violating the second law of thermodynamics. They're going to that area. You're not going to that area. But you believe that they're in that area, travelling to the moon and blah, blah, blah. They're just passing through the high-pressure gas we're all breathing and then waving goodbye to it as they enter a vacuum. Like, how absurd.
I'm sorry. Was that a get out of jail free card to cover up for the excuse of, I don't remember seeing stars, right? So is that what Adam? Is that what you're trying to say? That they lined it up?
This is 20 years before Don Pettit. This is like a NASA video saying, just describing it. That when they're up there in the module, they use a
Don Pettit. Not even Don Pettit. Remember, what was his name? Michael Collins.
Yeah, he's talking about Collins and Aldrin both having the same question put to them about the stars at different times, and they both gave contradictory answers. One said that it was like a blinding light of amazing stars that you could see forever, and it was just like nothing you've ever. The other said, I don't even remember seeing any stars.
And the Milky Way.
But yeah, we've got imagery of them upon modules holding sextants, quite literally.
Yeah, where's the horizon on a globe? There isn't one.
Right.
Number one. Number two, just in case anyone didn't realise, Adam was, even though he was telling the truth of what they said, he was being sarcastic earlier. I don't think people picked up on that.
No, I wasn't.
You're actually saying that they actually did this with a sextant.
They tell you to aim to the point on the edge of the Earth and then take your angle from there. We showed the video on here.
Thank you for.
So you're being serious that they actually
Brian.
did that?
Yeah, thank you, Dermot O'Leary, for repositioning his argument.
No, I wasn't repositioning his argument.
Did you think I was actually taking the mic?
I thought, are you being serious that you actually are seriously stating that they actually did that?
That's what they say. That's their story.
No, that's what they say. But I'm talking about Adam is making people think now who are listening in that Adam is actually stating that they actually did that, not just said it, did that.
No, I said in a video that they showed how they did stuff in space. They showed it and they draw a little diagram to show what you're doing. It was like in one of those Walt Disney NASA instructional 1960s, early 70s videos.
Yeah, I remember the video.
Yeah.
The point I'm making is that the audience, from the way you said it, are actually taking. If I was an audience member, I'd be scratching my head going, is he actually saying that they actually did this?
Yeah, Adam, you glober.
He's not. Yeah. Adam knows there's no space to do this in. It's absurd. If he's phrased it in such a way that he gives off the impression that he thinks they're actually doing this in a place that doesn't exist. No, Adam doesn't believe that they're holding bleeding sextants in Narnia, okay?
I just wanted people to know that. Sorry, one.
Just saying, it's only a quickie. I just find this ironic. I just Googled it. It says the command module's optic system, called the Space Sextant, flew on each Apollo mission and took the naval sextant to a whole new level.
They're just laughing at you. They're just laughing at you. You know, people who come across that, The clever dick that's written that is just laughing at you.
And there was a kind of an element, you think of like the slide rule as a wand, you know, and the sheet of paper as a sigil being written.
Yeah, I'd go with that. Based on what we've just put out in terms of what they'd actually require for their inference that we're in orbital motion based on flat Earth measurements. Yeah, suddenly the slide rule's nothing more than a bloody wand. Yeah.
And the pen, you know, and the astronauts are doing the same as well. And in amongst the darkness of space with the occasional transponder being a beep, you know, an extreme concentration. In fact, I actually believe that the magic played an enormous part in getting the Apollo 13 mission crew home.
Anyone? See? He absolutely believes this stuff. Right?
Well, he did say imagine. He did say he imagined.
Imagine that magic helped them get home through Narnia. I mean, the sky vacuum.
Just going back to the stars and them in space sighting the horizon. I threw in part of an article in Mass B. If you guys want to take a look at that, that goes against what Adam said their story was at that time.
I've got it up. Did you want to read it?
Yeah. Let me see.
Oh, is it just what was read earlier? No, it isn't, is it? Go ahead, Chocolate.
All right. So what I have highlighted, it says the astronauts also needed to use an onboard sextant to confirm their location by sighting in the stars. There are 37 stars that provided an accurate way of aligning the spacecraft's computer platform to allow the astronauts to steer their way through the heavens. So that's a bit of a problem, saying that they're just aligning the horizon. Also a bit of a problem when you say, I was there, but I don't remember seeing stars when you needed them. A bit of a problem.
Well, you'd also need to level your tool, wouldn't you?
Sure.
But yeah, they don't have that. Fundamentally, part of their rhetoric is that you don't have that in space. But the area that they're claiming to not have that in, as we would point out, is an area that violates the second law of thermodynamics. You can't travel through high-pressure gas and then just reach a point where you're waving goodbye to it at the Kármán line.
Yeah,
how are you going to get a
level with
geographic position in space?
Brian, then Mush.
How do you create level without horizontal?
You don't. Mush?
How do you get a geographic position in space?
You don't. Ground position. You don't. In terms of in space, nobody's inferring, by the way, Brian, that they think that there is a possibility of going to space to not get this measurement. There is an area to go to fail to get this measurement from. There's no Narnia, there's no sky vacuum. Gas fills space, we're breathing high-pressure gas. If the sky was a vacuum, then the gas we are breathing would fill that space instantaneously, leaving us all suffocating, like in Total Recall. Gas fills space.
Well,
But what
someone needs
about
to
the
ask
video?
Adam.
You guys lying?
Someone needs to ask Adam, do you know for sure and without a doubt that the globe is not real?
I know it's not a ball.
Oh, shoot. The David White syndrome.
Yeah, the belief that we're on a ball comes from flat Earth measurements. Shout out to Roger Ledwell. Have a Guinness on me, Brian. You earned it. I mean, you can give him the sentiment of drinking Guinness on his own coin, because I am keeping that super chat, Roger.
Thank you, Roger.
Yeah, why is nobody buying me a membership? I've been without a membership for 2 weeks now.
I love it. My panel are e-begging my audience to get them free memberships to my channel. That's terrible. Someone from the chat says $1.99 buys 1/10 of a Guinness. It's true. Right, should we crack on with the actual show? Should really be critiquing Thomas Sheridan. I'll do another call to action, though. Obviously, I want to help Thomas Sheridan in the algorithm. In all sincerity, I do like the guy. And as is always the case, please let Thomas know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment without swearing and a like on his video, whatever it is that you need to do to boost him in the algorithmic love. with the idea being that were he to respond, same as anybody else we respond to, the hope being he'd put a link to my video. So there we go, there's a link whizzing its way by. I do hope some of you in the live audience, there's well over 100 people watching, do actually toddle along to Thomas Sheridan. You might actually like his content, so you might end up giving him a subscribe as well. So check him out, but most of all, most importantly, let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me.
When the service module exploded on the side, whatever caused that, and from the moment the transmission came through, bing, Houston, we have a problem. From that moment on, it was like that was a right, that was an incantation, and from then, like when you think about the efforts, and there's a fantastic book about it that I read years ago about.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, it's in your mind a major event that's happened in a place that doesn't exist. It's akin to saying the moment they interacted with that witch and the Turkish delight was offered, it was like an incantation. It was like a magical experience that took hold of Narnia that doesn't exist. Yeah, when the tanks blew in the area of volume that the gas we're all breathing isn't vacating and filling, they're looking through the window of the module in that story of Narnia, Sky Vacuum, at an area of volume that the gas could be filling, but they're looking back at a blue marble with clouds on it that isn't expanding into the area of volume 10 to the minus 17 torr. It's a complete violation of the second law of thermodynamics. Gas fills space. The fact that they can look back at a high-pressure gas not filling space and suggest that on their journey they've had a gas tank explosion because beep, 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 they've had a word through the radio, Houston, we have a problem. This is just a story. This is a Hollywood story. That's what it is.
Are you saying that
gifted one membership? Are you saying Nathan? Sorry. I just want to shout out Iron 26. He's gifted one membership, so maybe Neil will get it.
Are you saying that he read the line "The Witch in the Wardrobe" as well?
No, he's read the NASA, The Witch and the Wardrobe, and thinks that people have travelled through an invisible door that holds the gas pressure here, that they wave goodbye to at the Kármán line, to then almost make it to the moon, and then have an explosion of gas pressure. It's just, again, them laughing at you. So the problem, according to this narrative, is that, oh no, we're going to lose all of our gas to space because it expands into it. Oh, look at that blue marble of Earth with gas around it, not expanding into space. That's the story. They're just laughing at you. I'm talking to Thomas Sheridan. Talking to Thomas, in case he watches this. They're laughing at you. So the problem is that the gas might vacate into the space from the shuttle, from the module. What about the gas around the blue marble Earth? Has that got any containment for them to worry about whether or not it's going to go into the vacuum? Oh no, it just hangs around. No worries. They're in Narnia, worrying about gas filling the space around the module and not worrying about it dissipating from Earth. Utterly absurd.
I think I found it. Just a quick it's all right, it's nothing major. I'm just saying it, we talked a little about yesterday on the show and the gentleman that we was listening to and who was critiquing that might be being too hard and he's a new blah. But I think now us lot, especially you in the panel, it's very difficult for us to critique anybody because as soon as somebody comes out with a sentence, you can automatically say, it's relating to a flat Earth, it's relating to an angle, it's relating to horizontal or level, So you've got to allow them to beg the question. He's begged the question 10,000 times already with atmosphere and space and whatever. But you've got to allow them to talk like that. But I think that's the way we've become. Nobody can ask me the time now without me telling them they need a flat Earth for that. That's how my life's become now.
As it should be. The reality of the obvious and observable nature of what we measure Earth as shouldn't be something that we allow our opponent to use to claim that we're on a religious belief they've been brainwashed with from birth. And I absolutely agree with your sentiment in terms of how you perceive the world based on the reality of what we measure to get our concepts like time. We measure a flat Earth for it, shout it from the hilltops. We know it, and it's undoing everyone who comes across this platform in terms of their recognition of how they don't need a flat Earth belief anymore. Just understand how Earth is actually dealt with, and you'll know it's measured flat. And then you'll know how those flat Earth measurements have turned into religious fundamentalist sphere beliefs. Go ahead, Adam.
I think I found it. I'll quickly press. I'll just make it big. But I think this is the bit in terms of navigating from the moon to from the Earth to the moon. So how to use a sextant in a wardrobe is this, but just so Brian doesn't accuse me of anything.
In Earth orbit, they can use their sextant. An astronaut lines up a known star and a prominent landmark, and feeding his readings into the computer, gets his position back from the machine. As they leave Earth orbit and head for the moon, the astronauts are faced with
Thunderbirds are go.
I'll go very slow.
with another guidance
what we got it on
problem,
screen.
that of determining their attitude or the direction the spacecraft is facing.
Adam, rewind. I want that spaceship back on screen. This is the standard. This is what they were giving you. Yeah? This is stop motion animation. That's what this is. Yeah? Now, if you don't recognize this garbage technology from the 60s that they used to lie to you, and you believe that this is actually a rocket in space, then you're a fool. And the people who produced this were laughing at you then, and now everybody who can have, 1 ounce of discernment to see that this isn't real? Right, and what are they using? They're using a sextant, a tool that absolutely unequivocally requires a flat Earth to reference. And they're describing using Earth to reference their level to get an angle from it. They're laughing at you. You can't even look at a sextant if you're on a globe. You can't get a horizontal. There isn't one. What do we get from our opponents who are deep into this argument? Oh, we get a plane of reference tangential to the globe. No, you don't. Yeah? Single points aren't horizontal reference planes, which is what a sextant uses.
Watch what they're about to do.
The astronauts are faced with another guidance problem, that of determining their attitude or the direction the spacecraft is facing. The astronaut navigator finds a known star in the...
Just so you know, nobody was claiming it was real.
Oh, that's what they'll tell us when they say that. Oh, no, they put that in as an artist rendition so you would understand what was going on. Obviously, there's no secondary spaceship taking pictures of the primary spaceship. So, yeah, we know it's fake, but it needs to be fake so we can understand what it would look like from the outside. Yeah, it's a model. They've already admitted to it. Oh, right. Where was that disclaimer in the video? Oh, well, it's submitted here in this document from 1990 where they say that obviously they couldn't do it, and now they put artist rendition every time they do something similar. So I've made many apologies for how it's perfectly justifiable to have stop-motion animation in a documentary that pretends that we're in a sky vacuum that violates the second law of thermodynamics. It's all cushy.
Yeah, isn't it obvious that it's not real? I mean, my word, what more do you need?
Did he just on that video though? Sorry, Brian. Did he just say? Did he say altitude? Finding the altitude? Oh,
attitude.
You're not sorry.
Was it attitude or altitude?
Yeah. Yeah.
What does that mean, attitude?
Because he's trying to define a level. Okay. So just watch. You'll see now. He's using his sextant, and he's picked a prominent. Remember what's just been said? Picked a prominent landmark on the Earth to line it up with, and this is him now lining it up to get his elevation angle.
The wide-angle telescope. Using a fingertip control, he changes the attitude of the spacecraft to bring the star into line. Once he has the star in position in the telescope, he moves the optical sextant. He lines the sextant up with the star and makes a reading.
Oh, dramatic.
He must repeat the process with another known star.
The music is unbelievable.
Right, Adam, just talk us through the flat plane that is currently at about 80 degrees through the sphere.
Yeah, we've now got, I don't know, 0 point stuck on some point on the Earth, a known landmark from this distance, and now he's taking his elevation angle from this, what looks like a syringe that's been drawn on screen, and he's going to take his mark at some point when.
No, it's not. No, that's incorrect. Sorry, I just got to stop you. It might be because I've got this is one of the few times that having a massive screen really helps. So the reason I said, can you see the line that goes through the sphere Earth? There's like a cross that goes through it. One goes up from the center point of Earth with all the marcation of angles. That's the elevation with respect to what? Well, it looks like the crosshairs at the center of the sphere. That is to say, with respect to the equatorial plane. Can you see that? It's on its side. But
are you talking about down? Yeah, you're talking about down at the globe itself. You can see like an equatorial plane and a line coming up from that, making a 90 to the equatorial plane,
exactly.
and another line meeting that. Yeah.
Yes.
Go on.
Well, I'll press play again. They'll do the same again for the lunar lander when they're approaching the moon. They're going to.
So that he has 2 readings to give to the onboard computer. From this information, the computer determines the attitude of the spacecraft. To find his position in space, the navigator goes through the same kind of routine he used in orbit around the Earth. He takes a sextant sighting on a known star and on Earth's horizon. The computer, given this information, tells him where he is relative to the Earth. As the spacecraft approaches the moon, the same procedure. This time,
attitude would be pitch, right? How can you determine your pitch in relation to nothing? You don't have a horizontal.
He said with respect to the horizon.
But you don't have an horizon or a horizontal. You don't have anything
to
determine pitch from. If you're dealing with a globe, a sphere, there is no pitch. There is no horizon. There is no. No matter how many tangents you place on at every point around it, makes no difference. None of them can be claimed to be horizontal because every other one has to be claimed to be horizontal as well. So none of them are horizontal. He doesn't have anything to determine attitude from.
Sorry, are you suggesting that if he was in space, he could have something to suggest his attitude with respect to the ground? He hasn't got a horizontal plane to describe the attitude from. I mean, are you suggesting that they could be in space doing this, Brian?
It's impossible for him to. It's impossible for him to determine attitude without horizontal, and it's impossible for him to have horizontal under those conditions.
They just told you how. You point the space sextant at the edge of the Earth. You're not listening.
Yeah, at the horizon. Right. Is there any more of this, Adam?
I'm getting an attitude with this nonsense.
Is there any more of this, Adam?
That is literally the point.
Okay, fine.
Look, he's going to do the same look from the moon this point now.
Gotcha. Well, this is the horizontal plane of reference, isn't it? That I'm drawing across from top left to bottom right, where the crosshair intersects at 90. That's a horizontal plane of reference.
Is that what they're invoking? I don't know. They just stuck a syringe on a ball.
A bad attitude tangent. That's what that bad attitude tangent. That's what that is.
Right. Okay. We're going to go back to Tom Sheridan. Thank you.
I was making fun of the notion of quick go to the center of the Earth to take these elevation angles. The center of the Earth sextant.
Exactly.
And here they got a space sextant.
And it points at the center. Based on the diagram, it points at the center of Earth.
What they had to do to get those guys home, but even the way when you got to Earth, they needed to find a way to find the right way to align for their incoming trajectory for coming in through the atmosphere. And so people in certain countries around the world were told to switch off their lights or switch them on at a certain time. So the astronauts could use the lights to guide them towards the angle of the angle of trajectory.
He laughed over the main bloody point.
And so people in certain countries around the world were told to switch off their lights or switch them on at a certain time. So the astronauts could use the lights to guide them towards the angle of the angle of trajectory into the atmosphere.
Angle of trajectory.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. So you're talking about a depression
How
angle,
dare I interrupt an angle, right?
Well, yeah. That's the most critical bit. It's what we've been talking about with respect to their space sextants. They're going to need a horizontal plane of reference. What's he talking about? He's talking about a depression angle, isn't he?
Yeah, but listen. I can't even, Nathan. I'm sorry. I can't even address that. You shouldn't have gone on to Neil. Neil did the right thing. As soon as you hear that, it's time to laugh. That is so ridiculous. And he says after that, I don't care if he says talking about a flat plane. It's like switching the lights on and off.
I want to know how many people were flicking their lights on and off.
That's what I mean. Who's got up and put the kitchen light on just to guide Apollo 8 in?
No.
What are you on about?
Right, I've got to unpack this. Right. You, Thomas, aren't going to space. But if you're turning your lights on to guide a spaceship back from space, then you're basically involved in space, aren't you? Likewise, if you're creating a gyro compass to go on board a spaceship, and you're an extremely skilled engineer producing that for NASA, subcontracted out at great expense, and you've put your heart and soul into producing that piece of technological mastery to send it off to NASA to send to space, then you've basically put something into space. I mean, right there, you've made it. It went to space that you didn't go to, and the guy making the gyro compass didn't go to, and the people turning on and off their lights haven't gone to. But they're basically involved. I mean, kind of affirming their bias that this place that they're turning off and on their lights for exists for the rocket to come back from. You know, just not clever programming or anything. You know, getting people involved with the deceit of a sky vacuum that the gas they're breathing when they turn their lights on and off. Maybe there were lights that needed to be in containment. I don't know. Who knows how those lights worked. Meanwhile, the gas that they're breathing when they're flicking their light switches is at high pressure for them to be breathing it. And apparently the place that this rocket's coming back from is an area devoid of any gas, an area of volume capable of being filled by the high pressure gas precisely as high pressure gas does. But it's not. It just kind of gets to the Kármán line and chills out. You know, just kind of hangs around defying the first law. Yeah, maybe it goes down, go boom boom. You know, it decides it's going to reach absolute zero and come back down to Earth. Maybe it'll claim it's being done by a non-force force you can think of as a force, otherwise known as pseudo-Riemannian bent space-time invented by a man called Einstein. Maybe that's the reason they violate both first and second laws of thermodynamics when they hang around at the Kármán line or go down, go boom boom, which they don't do. Gas has very specific behaviour that we know, and it's dispersion entropy. It fills space. That's what gas does.
It's been a while. Shout out to the rebellious gas particles.
What, the ones at the Kármán line burning their bra in defiance of natural law? The ones that wave goodbye to rocket ships that pass through them and into an area of volume that those rebellious gas particles just can't be arsed going into? I mean, why would we go into that area of volume in the vector that we're travelling in at high velocity without anything to impede us? I mean, when we get to this point called the Kármán line, we're just going to stop. We're not going to carry on in the same vector indefinitely like all other gas particles behave. We're going to wave goodbye to those rockets, the ones that can go into that area of volume called Narnia. I mean space. Yeah, we'll wave goodbye to them. We'll defy natural law. Those rebellious gas particles, we praise them, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have rockets in an area of volume that they ain't filling. They'd have filled it and we'd all be dead. Good on them.
Yep. Neil, go on, talk.
No, you're good.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting you back in there. Sorry. Neil, a year and a half ago, the host of this show would have laughed along with you. But now, a year and a half later that he has a peer's gender, he's, he shouted at you, shouted you down.
With a little old angle.
Yeah.
My bad for wanting to point out that you'll need a flat earth for that angle. My bad. Sorry.
Nathan Gender. You know, you got onto Neil for nothing there. Neil was totally right.
Dermot.
I mean, that's all fucking magic. That's magic. And they survived, you know? And the whole world was like holding its breath if these guys would come back. The only way that the Apollo 13 crew could have got back, and they say, oh yeah, it was hard science, but there was a huge element of that too. It was science and magic are very similar in terms of the massive concentration.
God, why are you laughing?
Hard science. This is like a porno. It's terrible. What's hard science? Is there soft science? What the hell is that? It's the only way it's hard science with it. I can't even.
No, it's true. There was a story about Sabine Hosselenfelder. She's out walking one day and she comes across this house, right? And she strolls through the front door, and in these bowls, there's these 3 different sciences. One's a little bit too soft, one's a little bit too hard, one's just right, and she gobbled that science all the way down.
Needed to do it. And So when you're involved in experiences like that, it's very difficult not to be an occultist. Now, regarding all the Freemasons in NASA, that's absolutely true. The reason for that is because nearly most of them came out of the U.S. Navy. And within the U.S. Navy, you had things like the Scottish Rite Freemasonry and Apollo Lodge are huge, not only among officers, but among regular seamen as well. And so you would have had a situation in Mission Control where all these guys would have been either Scottish Rite or Apollo, right? Nearly all of them would have been in the Lodge, right? No, almost every one of them would have served on battleships in World War II. So they would have been in the Pacific arena at Leyte Gulf and the Battle of Midway and, Guadalajara and all.
I'll just say that this is where Thomas tends to excel. So he will have he more than likely has done some primary source research to back this information. And I would trust it. It sounds, you can tell by the way he's saying it. You know what I mean? Anybody else picking up on this?
Yeah, but it's hard to take Anton serious when he's talking about hard science. And he brought semen into it there a minute ago, even though he wasn't talking about semen, it was semen. It's just like, this is... I can't take anything he's saying serious.
Okay.
All these Iwo Jima and all.
I'm not sure. I'm not disputing his research. He's not presenting anything that would be surprising. I'm not sure how it presents anything to do with space being real. If anything, his mitigation is given so far, and the level of conspiracy that he's implying is going off in these institutions. Surely his conclusion is it's all bunkum, or is it's just a great place to work if you're a Mason or an occultist?
You'll find out. He will. Yeah, he does answer that.
All these appalling battles of mass carnage that took place in the specific theatre in World War II, where if you weren't seeing, you would have seen people burned alive from Japanese bombs and hitting the deck of your ship with their skin on, running around with their skulls exposed, developed a unique bond. By the time all these guys had finished all that, they found themselves in, Cape Kennedy, Cape Canaveral. This is why there's so much mysticism connected to the Apollo mission. That's one of the reasons I'm so drawn to it, and space travel in general. Like even the way, the way pioneers.
What the hell did he just say? A load of people were burning and skulls were something, and that's why they all became friends or something at Cape Canaveral. What connections? I can't take anything he's saying serious.
In year 11 switched off its telemetry. It gave its last telemetry reading.
They melted together.
In 1995, as it moved into interstellar space. What a remarkable thing that is. Like it moved off into another dimension. This kind of thing.
Sounds mental.
What?
It sounds mental.
It just convoluted two different concepts. So he said it moved into interstellar space. Okay. So space as in Keplerian sky vacuums with orbital motions. Okay. Then he says it moves into another dimension. The fourth dimensional pseudo-Riemannian geometry invented by Einstein, claimed to be a description of something called gravity, the bending and warping of that fourth dimensional concept invented by that man named Einstein. I mean, yeah, there might be a bending concept in the geometry invented by a man called Einstein that can bend, but that fourth dimension is purely conceptual and has absolutely no bearing on the heliocentric sky vacuum with an orbital motion after measuring flat Earth angles to Polaris to give us inferred minimums, radial values, and orbital motion scaled by Huygens, with an assumption that Venus has the same size as the measured flat radial value with Polaris of Earth when assumed to be a sphere. None of those things have got anything to do with Einsteinian quasi-pseudo fourth-dimensional reality that doesn't exist beyond his conception and mathematics. So it's just convoluting terms to sound smart, in my humble opinion.
You're filled with that all the time. And same with the quantum physics end of it, like Oppenheimer citing the Bhagavad Gita as the atomic bomb test happened in Los Alamos, How
are any of those things connected? What has that got to do with quantum mechanics? Anybody care to explain what the hell he's babbling about? No, he's just babbling nonsense because Oppenheimer is not connected to quantum mechanics in any way, shape, or form. What's he talking about? Anybody? Anybody care to fill in the blanks?
I'm going to go with one day.
One day wasn't speaking.
Oppenheimer helped with calculations for the claimed atomic bomb. That's it. I don't remember Oppenheimer having any connection to quantum mechanics. As a matter of fact, according to the movie, he was trying to get Werner Heisenberg, who was the godfather of quantum mechanics, involved, and he didn't want to know. So I don't know. Like they reference Werner Heisenberg several times in that movie, because maybe they just felt like they had to or something. You know, because I don't know what Oppenheimer has to do with I don't remember him being connected to quantum mechanics. What was he? I don't know. He did calculations for an atomic bomb, supposedly. That's it.
Well, this, I am the destroyer of 1,000 worlds, this kind of thing. And it wasn't just in the West. You had cosmism in the Soviet space exploration world, whereas this belief was that on this planet, on this Earth, spiritual experiences are not possible, but they are in outer space. And so therefore, this is why you had this whole genre of Soviet and Eastern European literature and other things that revolved around the concept of people meeting their dead ancestors in space, meeting spirits or having spiritual experiences beyond the domain of the Earth. The deeper you went into space, the more the spiritual experiences were attained. And I think that's actually what happened to the Apollo astronauts when they were shocked by that. They got to the moon and they saw shit that they were not expecting to see.
No, they didn't travel via a sky vacuum to a rock in the sky that we know as a light known as the moon. That didn't happen. Yeah, we'd all be dead. The gas we breathe would fill the same space that they claim to have travelled through. It's a law of nature. Gas fills space. We're breathing it.
And that's why I believe humans will never go further than the moon into space, because they'd stop being human or something. There's some kind of weird. It may also be damaging the universe as a whole. Humans are not supposed to leave this planet any great distance.
Oh, really? Well, I mean, in our recent history, we've expanded out what used to be the known territories and found new worlds when we travel out towards the horizon, where logically you would find more soil, more resources, more land. And we did. Then we expanded out the territories on the maps with those new worlds. Now, that obviously reached a point where they started extrapolating out minimum elevation angles to Polaris measured off a flat plane, the same one that was used to expand the territories in the first instance, and then started claiming that the soil is actually in the sky. Just a very far away soil that you won't ever reach, and we're going through sky vacuums to potentially reach on the moon, because that's where the soil is. Moon soil. You're not getting it, and it's not really that useful, but we can get to it, and you just need to know that all the soil that's currently available is in the sky. Because that makes sense, doesn't it? Who's off mute? Ruining my bloody audio.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I have a slight problem with what he said before. I mean, I got a lot of problems with what he's talking about, but he said something about we'll never get beyond the moon. Okay. Since he's so involved in NASA and what they're doing and how the telemetry and all that goes down, maybe you should pay attention to NASA saying that we need to solve these problems before we can send people to this region of space. Because that would be a bit of a problem, being that we're supposedly already sent people to this region of space. The region being the supposed Van Allen belts that you have to go through to get from Earth to the moon. So if NASA is still trying to solve that problem, but yet the same NASA that he claims that has the telemetry that they did on a piece of paper and a pencil in the spaceship, like, bro, like, get a grip, man. I want to listen to people giving you that story. Rant done.
I might as well go to Sheridan.
I think he's been reading much too much Russian sci-fi.
Shout out to Roger Ledwell. He says that, are they using gaslights? I think that might be an old Thomas Sheridan psychopathy reference. Thanks for the super chat.
And so even the Soviets had cosmism, that there was a belief that dead ancestors could be contacted through radio telescopes and things like that. Or else I think it wasn't a film Inception. It was made into an awful version, a Hollywood version, with the original Polish version, Polish-Russian version, where the astronaut's wife dies on Earth, but her spirit appears to him in space. This is a very deeply held belief in cosmism within the Soviet Union. And these were all scientists. Russian cosmology and astronautics and rocket technology was...
None of which are science.
Pause a second, Nathan.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, none of it is science, and belief has nothing to do with knowing. So what people believe, who cares? Have they been able to produce any evidence of any of this? No. Can they? No, not without violating entropy, which can't be violated. It's natural law. Right? You're living in fantasy, Thomas. You need to get into reality.
Way ahead of the Americans. Even at the time of Apollo, they were way ahead. This is one of the reasons the Russians never bothered sending men to the moon. It was because it was basically a vanity project. It achieves nothing. It's just bragging rights.
Now I'm just going to scroll down and read my comment about this. Right. So, actually read it. Is it big enough for me to read my own damn text? Not quite. I'll try and read my own blurry writing off my giant screen. Okay, bragging rights. Nice to see the propaganda is working. You don't need to spend 60 million a day for bragging rights. You do it for control. Space isn't real. It costs a fortune to convince people like you there is an area above your head that gas isn't expanding into in line with natural law. Open brackets, second law of thermodynamics, close brackets. You have never been to this place, and gas defies natural law as rockets you aren't on travel through the high pressure gas to get to this place you have never been. That's sky vacuum in brackets. But you definitely believe money well spent. Yeah, exactly. It's not about bragging rights. It's about convincing you that Narnia is real. Convincing you that there is an area above your head that people can travel through as you turn your lights off and on to guide them home through this area that gas isn't filling, in line with entropic law, as Brian put it. Second law of thermodynamics is the law of entropy. Gas dispersion. That's part of entropic descriptions. How gas fills space. All gases do it. They all expand at a high rate of speed in whatever velocity they're travelling until they collide with something. If they don't, they carry on. And if the sky was a vacuum, all of the gas would just carry on into the area of volume. And the explanations of bent pseudo-4 space-time don't cut it in terms of claiming that gas comes back down again. No, not unless it hits something. That's not how gas behaves. It doesn't turn around. It carries on in whatever vector and would carry on in that vector into space. All of it. Instantly. In fact, we'd never develop gas pressure in the first place. The first gas particle in a nonsensical, sphere-based, heliocentric world that we aren't living on, because it was derived from flat Earth measurements, would start with the very first gas particle leaving Earth's surface into a 10 to the minus 17 torr sky vacuum and travelling in whatever vector it left the ground in, and it would carry on forever, never to return. And so with the second gas particle and the third gas particle, all of them would just leave the ground, enter the sky vacuum, and just sod off, never to return. We'd never develop the pressure that we're breathing if the sky was a vacuum. It's utterly absurd to suggest that gas comes out of the ground and just hangs around. No, it's travelling at vast speeds in a single direction until it collides with something. There must be containment for us to have gas pressure.
What do you really learn? Nothing. You don't learn a lot. And
yes, a second. Yeah, go ahead.
Just a second. Just for Thomas, if he happens to listen to this. Thomas, you need to research what's known as diffusion, right? Within fluids, both liquids and gases, but specifically in gases. As what you're believing is that gas at high pressure is not instantly diffusing into an area of literally no resistance. The only thing that slows down diffusion is resistance. So if you have a gas that's like carbon dioxide diffusing into air, because into the air, right, the diffusion rate will be a little bit slow, right, because the carbon dioxide is a dense gas in comparison to the air. But if you have carbon monoxide, the diffusion rate into air will be fast, or helium will be fast, right? Will be fast because the helium is smaller, so it gets through easier, so there's less resistance. Now, if you're talking about air at pressure, which is gas at pressure, diffusing into something where there's literally basically with hardly zero resistance, and it's you believe that it's not doing that, you are not living in the real world. That is not in line with natural law. That is not gas behavior. You cannot have high pressure of any kind, temperature, or a vacuum without solid containment all around. So if you're believing anything different, then you are in Narnia. I'm sorry, you are believing fantasy. Thank you, Dave.
That's why it became this gimmick of fellas hitting a golf ball on the moon and stuff like that, just to try and keep TV ratings up because the public lost interest. Meanwhile, the Russians were sending robots to the moon that were gathering soil and then bringing it back to the Earth.
Soil in the sky.
With diamonds. I got something. I got something. So, this space does not exist. Let's stop this right now. Going on for a long time. It's the vacuum of space does not exist. I know it sounds pedantic, but it's important. Do not say space does not exist. Okay?
Yeah. Outer space, aka the sky vacuum, does not exist. You've got to be quite.
Now, the vacuum of space does not exist.
Indeedy.
Vacuum of space.
The vacuum of space.
Say it 5 times.
The vacuum of space does not exist.
They were sending robots and landers on Mars and on Venus. While the Apollo things were going on, they were still very far ahead in space travel, and but that was a different time. This is when the military were very heavily involved, and they were all people who came out of World War II. And if you take Von Braun, Von Braun absolutely was a nasty character in the war. I mean, the V weapons project was definitely a result of slave labor in this kind of thing, but he's justified by saying it was wartime and what was happening. But like he was brought in. Was he an occultist? I don't know. You see, a lot of them are also very heavily involved in science fiction movements. This is actually
Von Braun, father of rocketry, but his tombstone is talking about heaven as opposed to the vacuum of the sky.
Actually, that was the bonding thing.
Psalms 90. Sorry, on his tombstone, he definitely has read the Bible. Psalms 19:1, and the firmament shone his handiwork, referring to God.
Between Parsons
but fundamentally, and Von Braun. With Von Braun, he's referring to containment.
Yeah, firmament.
Yeah, that's what
the heavens declare the glory of the Lord.
Nathan was playing the video too fast. I had to just get in whatever I could get in. He just wants to keep playing it before you get a chance to stop. When he says firmament, I'm going to say it again. Werner von Braun's tombstone. On it says Psalms 19:1, and the firmament shone his handiwork. The firmament is solid containment above us and around us. And his handiwork is being God. I forget it.
But you got to give the whole scripture.
I don't. Yeah, I only have to give what's on his tombstone.
Yeah, it says the heavens declare the glory of the Lord, and the firmament shows his handiwork.
On his tombstone, it says Psalms 19:1. Right? And the firmament shone his handiwork. That's what it says, if I remember correctly. It doesn't say the whole lot.
Anyway.
Von Braun and Parsons got on so well that they were only communicating by mail and phone, was because they're both mad science fiction fans. So that's a magical element of it too as well, like a chaos magic element, that you have these scientific science fiction romances, and they become almost like grimoires or sort of books of meditation in order to bring the real thing into reality. It definitely was that way between Von Braun and Parsons. And Von Braun, Jack.
So you hear him saying things like this, and you go, "Oh right, well he must be quite perceptive then." And see how the magic really works. Describing that which has not been through the scientific method, that's pseudoscience, as the antithesis of itself in your rhetoric, that's science fiction, so that when what is shown in science fiction is claimed to happen in reality, you can call it science fact. No, it's still pseudoscience, but that's how a magic trick works, isn't it? Enough exposure to science fiction leads you to believe that what you see is what you get when you get rockets in sky vacuums. Therefore, science fact? No, both fiction.
Jack Parsons was that one time the secretary of the LA...
I'm holding.
The heavens declare the glory of the Lord, and the firmament shows his handiwork. Werner von Braun, Tombstone.
Which part of that is most relevant?
I was going to say that the only bit that's relevant is the firmament bit to the point we're making, you know?
I would say the firmament and the fact that it's his handiwork referring to God, but for this situation, all that was important for people to hear is Psalms 19:1 and that part of the writing. They didn't need to have all the rest of it. That's why I only remember that part, because that's the part that's most important, because it refers to God and refers to the firmament.
Yeah, it would be a little curious as to why somebody who is literally given the credit to the guy who designed the rockets to go to the moon would literally on his grave refer to something that would be between us and the moon, or that would prevent that from happening ever. So I don't understand. That's just a funny curiosity there.
He's giving it a bunk of himself.
Pretty much.
I was just checking because I didn't know if it said the firmament shows his handiwork or the whole scripture.
Sci-fi fan club or something like that, sci-fi books and fan club, and that was even an amazing thing that him and his friend Ed just as children were building rockets in their backyard in Pasadena, and he wasn't even involved in NASA, didn't exist. He was an off-campus researcher, rocket fuel researcher working off-campus from Caltech in Aurora, basically a shack in Aurora Seco near Pasadena, and he's a scrubland and we're in LA and area, and there was a very mystical, and we all know about his thing in the Agape Lodge and Thelema and stuff like that. So there was huge crossovers between the occult and space travel, and I think that's one of the reasons it actually worked. They achieved the impossible.
That's why it works.
Sorry.
I mean, obviously, if you've got magic and the hidden and bullshit talk about being in a sky vacuum, then that's how it all works. Yeah, that's how it works on people's minds to make them believe it's true. That's not how it physically happens in reality. No one's travelling to Narnia. There is no sky vacuum. Gas fills space.
Because they can't do it today. They just, even the way they sent the sigil out on the Voyager 1 spacecraft, that metal disc with the pictures of man and woman, there was a belief in a sort of a transcendence that existed within space travel in the past. It doesn't exist there now because it's all civilians and they're all like, weirdos, at NASA, and just like they are at CERN and everywhere else, and they're not even interesting people. And they're basically entertainers who go into space, like your man, what's this guy, the guy who sings on the spaceship with a guitar in his hand. It's just...
You see what I mean? He's so close to getting it, isn't he? Yeah, they're entertainers. That's right. They're putting on a show. Shout out to us so far. Both relevant. Then there is no firmament without a creator. Thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, but he's also using the same thing that would allow him to see the magic trick. He's using the magic trick itself to justify it for himself. It's bizarre. This is the most bizarre support of heliocentrism I've ever heard. That he's willing to go, it's magic. Basically, it's all magic. That's how it works. That is, that's beyond me. How you can just accept that
entertainment.
in your own mind.
Like the ISS, that's all rubbish. It achieves nothing, and it's just that again, that's just vanity. People pretending it's it's a fake version of the Starship Enterprise, and the real.
And there's that juxtaposition. So it's a fake version of a science fiction concept. So if it's a fake version of a science fiction idea on a movie, then what does that make the ISS? Well, it doesn't make it science fact. It just makes it another version of the Enterprise. Another story told in a place that isn't real. That's all it is. Absolutely correct. Men on high wire with blue screens and models. Some of them in swimming pools. But all done so that you can believe that there's an outer space to go to. A sky vacuum that people can travel through. Shout out to Chow Yun Cat. Says Werner von Braun's tombstone only has the scripture reference, not the quote. Yeah, I thought that was made reasonably clear, but you are correct. It doesn't say the text itself. It just has the number 19.1, is it?
Well, that's German efficiency for you, isn't it?
I was sure it did have, and the firmament Sheridan's handiwork. I was sure it did have that on his tombstone. I'll have to look.
So it just says Psalm 19:1?
Yeah, even my wife laughed at that German efficiency joke. She walked in and she told it and started laughing. Kudos.
The real stuff is interplanetary probes and robots. Things like Pioneer. Well, that's got switched. That's gone now. We've lost that. Well, it's not gone. It's 4 million miles. It's on a 4 million mile journey. Sorry, a 4 million year journey.
Scaled by way of Kepler and Huygens. I also left this as a comment. I'm not going to read out my full comment in terms of how the scaling for Huygens and Kepler actually functions. I'll just roughly summarise it now in terms of what we've already detailed on the show. That is to say, Kepler takes the outside edge of a sphere from the minimum elevation angle to Polaris measurement off a flat plane and puts it into orbital motion. Now, again, I'm not going to detail the third law of interplanetary motion, but that creation of Kepler has no physical distances to anything. You need to scale it with something. That's where Huygens comes in, because he makes the, quote, ingenious assumption, end quote, that Venus has the exact same size, and the size being the derivation of that flat plane measurement to Polaris, as a sphere of Earth. So therefore Venus, Earth's twin, yeah? That's Huygens saying that Earth has the same radial value, measured off a flat plane, as the assumed to be spherical Venus, in Kepler's orbital motion. Ergo, you can scale all of the distances and times it would take for a rocket travelling through a sky vacuum to arrive at a certain location, which is what he's just quoted in terms of distance. Offering it in years, yeah, again, what you have to thank for that claim is Huygens and Kepler and their ingenious assumptions of scaled values of Venus and Earth as a sphere when measured flat.
To the nearest star it can get to, somewhere in the Aquila constellation, and Pioneer, Voyager 1 and 2 are still transmitting, I think, but
yeah, we're still getting signals from the walkie-talkies they took through the wardrobe to Narnia. Still getting some signals back from them. So I'm sure one of the fawns has got his finger on the button right now. And obviously there's a problem with radio transmissions actually breaching through the wardrobe itself. You know, that would mean that we had a whole bunch of interference through the wardrobe of transmissions from Aslan. But that's not a problem. You know, they do actually still receive, if you've got the transmitter pointed just at the right angle of the wardrobe, you can receive some of those radio transmissions that came back from Narnia. I mean, there is obviously a time dilation problem that you've got to factor in. What's happening there is on a completely different timeline to us, and they have to factor that in when they're receiving the radio signals through the wardrobe. As long as we are all clear, this is a comparison to outer space, the sky vacuum that these rocket ships are travelling through at a set distance that's been made and derived from flat plane measurements of angles to stars. Just so we're all clear what's going on here.
Oh, yeah, Friday.
Yeah, I'm heading home.
Take care. Good seeing you again, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll beat these from it within the Truther movement and a thing, because there's a tremendous font of esoteric and psychological and artistic and creative, substance that can be drawn from that. It's like everything else in the world. It's just fallen apart. I was just saying to my mate there, Reiner, earlier on, it says the Western civilization was built on coal, steel, and oil. And that was created with human ingenuity, labor, and food. And now in Europe, in the West, we don't produce oil, steel, coal. There's no incredible feats like traveling to outer space, traveling to the moon and back, or sending out probes like Pioneer, this kind of thing.
No, it's the false valor. So people who've actually physically engineered things and mined things to engineer them with, and developed technologies to be building from things like science, that offers us the ability to develop technology with the raw materials that men have put in graft to sweat and get out of the ground and turn into materials to build into technology. Akin to the amazing achievement of travelling to Narnia. Like these, scientists did? I mean, it's an outrage, really, when you think about what is just compared and bundled in with actual achievements that men have achieved. Now, I'm not going to ascribe false valor of science to the technology we all enjoy using, but for the fact we have science and the endeavours thereof to produce results empirical in nature to turn into that technology that we all enjoy using, those are true achievements, things that have actually bettered mankind's plight, things we actually do and experience. He said it himself earlier in the video. Going to the moon achieves nothing. Being on the ISS achieves nothing. They're pumping billions into it. So for what? Bragging rights? No,
Innate.
not at all. Go ahead.
Innate, yeah, if I may. I think we got off on the wrong foot, brother. I didn't like you for a long time. And I would just like to mend whatever problems we got together and just kind of work together. God bless, man.
Well, I'm married, but I'm flattered. Thank you all the same.
No, I just met as it's flat man, guys. I just met as a nice guy. I just want to kind of mend the.
Pleasure to have
me
you.
and you have had some troubles in the past, so.
If you say so. Nice to have you. Shout out to Roger Ledwell. One thing I never got a concession on, and then a monocle face. Okay, I don't really know what that means, but thank you for the super chat. And we are going to be rounding out both live and after show shortly, but we are going to continue because there is one thing I want you to hear Thomas Sheridan say towards the end here.
It's a total deterioration. Not only is it really is end of civilization stuff. Could you imagine it? Well, it did happen in the First Great Reset. When the Christians took over the Roman Empire, they didn't take care of the aqueducts. They stopped taking care of the plumbing system, and the cities fell asunder. They were mocking, I'm sure they were mocking the Roman civil engineering projects. There's no way they built that and they let it die. And we're back here again. All these people today that attack the achievements of the West, whether they're in the truth movement who think that the earth is flat and no one ever went into space, or they're in the mainstream movement that they think it was all evil white men and it was all stolen from Africa and stuff like that. It's the same thing that happened with the arrival of Christianity.
There is a little bit more to the end of this video, but that's pretty much it for this. Any last comments on that? I wanted you to hear his last remarks in regards to him besmirching flat earthers with his poor research in terms of distances and such like. Go ahead.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, isn't he Irish?
No.
He's not?
He is Irish. He is Irish. Yeah, he is.
I stopped watching Globebusters for these videos.
Hey, isn't Mac Toon American?
Anyway, as you can see, go by in the chat right now. Divergent Droids just left a link, so please let Thomas Sheridan know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment in the vain hope that were to respond to some of the critique of his video today, he would leave a link to our video. But please let him know, as you can see, Divergent Droids posted the link. Leave him a polite comment and let him know that I sent you. Got it? Everyone happy?
Yeah,
what are we doing tomorrow, NASA?
No, we'll find that out tomorrow. But with that, I am going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's pre and live show possible. Also, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.